So we are in the final of Nelson's battles in 3D, the Battle of Trafalgar, one of the most important battles in the Napoleonic era, mainly due to the repercussions of it, right? Like before the War of the Third Coalition, Napoleon was planning, to invade Britain, that he had this ambition. And I've often heard that this is the battle, right? That put an end to Napoleon's ambitions to ever set foot on mainland Britain. But and yeah, essentially Nelson secures British supremacy in the seas. Um and yeah, just overall, as we know, this really does have like a long line of repercussions, because with that ambition gone, Napoleon then switches to the whole economic warfare, and as we know, that did him way more damage than good. So, in a weird way, this battle really did have a huge shockwave through the rest of the Napoleonic Wars. And I really like this battle. We're no stranger to it. We've covered it in Oversimplified's telling, and we've seen Kings and Generals telling of this battle. What I really like, so I have visual aids. I'm not sure if this is gonna come out well because my green screen has this weird thing where it shows my hands glitching. I'm not sure why, but so here's the thing. So if I remember correctly, battles would be done kind of like ship to ship next to each other shooting, right? Here's my tape and my stapler. But Nelson, being the mad lad he is, doesn't do that. This is Nelson. He goes straight past, basically straight through. So, if I remember correctly, that's the very oversimplified way it was put. And, even more oversimplified by me. So, overall, yeah, Nelson obviously dies in this battle, but he goes out like a true G. And yeah, I don't really have much else to say other than we should just get right to it. Let's watch Nelson's battles in 3D, the Battle of Trafalgar.
An epic history, Drakenfell collaboration. In 1792, the French Revolution sparked a European conflict that would last a generation. A struggle for mastery of Europe and the world. A contest fought on land and sea. In this war of shifting alliances, the most enduring rivalry was between France and Britain. Britain could not challenge France on land, but at sea, it was a different matter. Britain's Royal Navy was as dominant on the waves as Napoleon was to prove on land. And in an age when Britain had many skilled naval commanders, one stood out above the rest. Horatio Nelson. Bold, inspiring, and brilliant. For the British, he'd become a national hero and legend. These are the stories of his greatest battles.
Never mind maneuvers, always go at them.
1805. The short peace between Britain and France has collapsed, and the two rivals are at war once more. Britain, Russia, and Austria have formed a new alliance, known as the Third Coalition. Napoleon renews the French alliance with Spain. The newly crowned Emperor of the French is determined to finally defeat Britain. The nation that bankrolls the alliances against him, decimates French overseas trade, and blockades her ports. He has assembled a large invasion force on the Channel coast. His battle-hardened troops will make short work of the British, if he can control the Channel long enough to land them safely. The British Navy outclasses the French in number of ships and skill, but it cannot be everywhere at once. So Napoleon will use one of his favourite military principles, concentration of force, to secure temporary dominance at the decisive point. French and Spanish squadrons, scattered in numerous ports, will be brought together to form a giant combined fleet to take on the British. The Emperor gives command of the first phase of this mission to Admiral Pierre Villeneuve. Villeneuve had joined the Navy as a 14-year-old trainee officer and seen service in the American War of Independence. A supporter of the French Revolution, he was one of the few aristocratic officers to remain in naval service and was promoted to Rear Admiral. In 1798, he commanded the 80-gun Guillaume Tell at the Battle of the Nile. His was one of the few ships to escape that disaster. He was later captured when Malta fell to the British, but was released when peace was declared. In 1804, the commander of the French Mediterranean fleet dies of a heart attack, and Villeneuve replaces him with the rank of Vice Admiral. In temperament,
that's very interesting credential. I can definitely see how he would be chosen for this great job, you know, because obviously American here, in case you couldn't tell, and you know, often we can't ignore the involvement of the French, who helped us secure our independence against, you know, England. So definitely, yeah, that's interesting, that point there. Also seeing battle in the Nile and whatnot, we've already covered that, and how much of a disaster that was, but the fact he could get out of that already good on its own. So yeah, about to encounter Nelson again, huh?
With the rank of Vice Admiral. In temperament, Villeneuve could not be more unlike Nelson. In 1805, he writes to the Minister of the Navy, "You will be so good as to recall that I have not asked for command of this squadron. What is more, I have always sought a practical and useful career, as opposed to one filled with glory." On the 30th of March, 1805, following the Emperor's orders, Admiral Villeneuve sails from Toulon with 11 ships of the line, slips past Nelson's blockading force, and joins up with 6 Spanish ships and a further French ship off Cadiz. Now with 18 ships, Villeneuve sets off on a 5-week crossing of the Atlantic. On arrival in the French West Indies, he links up with another 2 French ships under Rear Admiral Magon. The British, meanwhile, are in disarray. When Nelson lost track of Villeneuve, he guessed the French were heading back to Egypt and raced off in pursuit. He reaches Alexandria before he realizes his mistake. So he doubles back and sets course for the West Indies, a full month behind Villeneuve. Nelson makes the crossing in just 4 weeks, but misses Villeneuve by a matter of days, who sails back to Europe on the 8th of June. But then, a lucky break for the British. Nelson sends a fast-sailing ship to carry his reports back to England, and by sheer good chance, it spots Villeneuve's fleet in the Atlantic.
Wow.
Their course is not back to the Med, as Nelson had assumed, but more northerly, towards the Channel. Vice Admiral Calder, with 15 ships of the line, is put on high alert, and on the 22nd of July, he intercepts Villeneuve off Cape Finisterre. In confused fighting, in heavy fog, the British capture 2 Spanish ships. But Calder fails to prevent Villeneuve reaching the Spanish port of Ferrol. The French admiral then makes a fateful decision. His orders are clear: proceed to Brest and then on to the Channel. But reports of ships to the north persuade him that he is about to be attacked by Britain's powerful Channel fleet. His ships, battered by Atlantic gales and battle, cannot fight again without repairs. So he retreats to Cadiz. Here he is soon blockaded by a growing number of British ships. Napoleon is furious when he receives this news. "Villeneuve does not possess the strength of character to command a frigate," he tells the naval minister. It is nearly autumn.
Yeah, the thing is, though, like, yeah, in case those reports were true and he was about to run into the British again, that's beyond understandable, not wanting to give battle. Again, like, yeah, Napoleon can definitely be upset, but I'm not sure how. I mean, obviously Napoleon on land is just a beast, but like, again, like, the admiral side of things, the naval side of conflict, I'm not sure Napoleon is that in tune. Like I said, I'm not sure how familiar with naval operations Napoleon is, but yeah, I'm willing to wager he never really got a chance to, but I'm willing to wager, yeah, I think I get where Villeneuve is coming from, not wanting to give another fight to the British, because we see the HMS series from Epic History. We do know just how well finely tuned the English naval machine is, and why, yeah, not wanting to fight them is just perfectly fine. And again, cautious, but I get that decision. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to say.
And a cross-channel invasion is now impossible. Villeneuve has failed him, and Napoleon must look for other ways to defeat the British.
So, if Admiral Villeneuve had sailed for Brest, my army would have landed. It would have been all over with England. You know, that's something about this I've been thinking about. The whole invasion of Britain. I mean, obviously, we know what the French land army is capable of. Because of what they do in the 3rd and 4th coalition, and how formidable, but even with that said, it's not like the British are pushovers. The thing is, I think I've heard that, like, even if, let's just say, Napoleon had gone there, I believe there were fortifications and harbors, and things definitely wouldn't have been smooth. It almost seems like, I feel like, it's easy to think, yeah, Napoleon would have landed there, easy win, stomp, but I feel like it wouldn't have been. And, you know, I don't know. There's a lot to it, but I don't think it would have even went as smoothly. But this situation in particular, like, I understand where Villeneuve is coming from. I probably would have done the same thing too, you know? I mean, granted, I'm not a military man. I'm just saying, you know? The risk of, again, who knows? If he had Winfried, maybe he could have made it and gotten Napoleon things, but, like, again, I don't know. I feel like Nelson might have caught him, or he would have, something bad would have happened. I don't know why I'm getting that vibe. I don't have much backing that up, but I don't know. I just don't think an invasion of Britain would go over as smoothly as it sounds. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know. I'm a bit torn about this, because I know that I've done some reading about, like, the British fortifications, so I don't think it would have been as easy. But then again, who knows? I think Napoleon would have pulled out even greater tactical brilliance if he could have landed. I don't know. It just, the whole adventure seemed like something that was always going to be a lot of trouble. You know what I mean? But, yeah, overall, who knows? I don't know.
In late August, Napoleon's troops break camp at Boulogne and march off to face the Austrians and Russians on the Danube. In the meantime, he sends orders to Admiral Villeneuve to sail into the Mediterranean, where he is to support French operations in Italy. But his Franco-Spanish combined fleet is not in good shape. It is short of supplies and men, and blockaded by a powerful British force, now commanded by Admiral Nelson. Villeneuve decides to stay put. But when Napoleon informs him that he is being replaced as commander, the French admiral is finally stung into action. On the 18th of October 1805, he orders the Franco-Spanish fleet to put to sea. Admiral Villeneuve's combined fleet consists of 33 ships of the line, 18 French and 15 Spanish. Admiral Villeneuve's flagship is the 80-gun Bucentaure. The Spanish contingent is led by Admiral Gravina aboard Príncipe de Asturias of 112 guns. Nelson had been waiting for the enemy with 34 ships of the line, but has just had to send 6 to Gibraltar for resupply and refit. Vice Admiral Calder, aboard HMS Prince of Wales, is sent home to face a court-martial for his lackluster performance at Cape Finisterre. So Nelson's now slightly outnumbered, 27 ships against 33, though he has 3 powerful first-rates, his own flagship Victory, Britannia, and Vice Admiral Collingwood's Royal Sovereign. Both fleets are accompanied by several frigates for scouting and relaying messages. On paper, the Royal Navy is heavily outgunned, but the British know they can rely on superior seamanship and faster gunnery to even the odds. After 8 weeks in Cadiz, Villeneuve is finally back at sea. But he's given his own captains little warning of their sudden departure, and has set sail in unfavourable light winds. As they crawl south along the Spanish coast, they are spotted by British frigates. They relay news of the enemy's departure to Nelson and the British fleet, patrolling 40 miles offshore. Nelson immediately sets course to intercept. On the morning of the 21st of October, Villeneuve's fleet is about 10 miles northwest of Cape Trafalgar, bound for the Straits of Gibraltar. When the British fleet is spotted closing in from the northwest, Villeneuve faces a dilemma. He considers running for the Mediterranean or facing the British in battle, but ultimately he orders the fleet to reverse course and sail back to Cadiz. This abrupt change in course, combined with light winds and many inexperienced crews, causes the combined fleet's formation to become extremely ragged. It now forms a rough crescent, stretching over 5 miles of sea.
Yeah, that's a mess. Yeah, that's not good. Man. Yeah, it's like the thing is like naval operations are like their own separate beast from land ones, and their complexity can be understated, especially when you have to sort of rely on wind and whatnot. Like, there's so many aspects to it that I find fascinating. And, yeah, like, so far, it's like the first of Nelson's battles. Man, I forgot, but yeah, sometimes facing... The thing is, we know that the British and, you know, the English naval superiority is peak, you know, and we know that, especially at this time, that it's just a well-oiled machine, you know, and often I see that, like, their enemies, you can just see how lacking some of their enemies are, like, in the first part, when they were, when they were facing against the Spanish, and the Spanish were just floundering to try to regroup because they were caught unorganized. It kind of goes to show you a bit of vigilance, especially when you're dwelling in the sea. It's super important because, again, like, if the English catch you, especially Nelson of all people, catch you slipping, it's like already over. That's why I was like, oh boy. Like, just seeing that was like a bit of a eesh, you know? Yeah. And as we know, I said in the opening, Nelson does something very unorthodox. He doesn't like side up with the enemy ship. He keeps going straight, intercepting between them, which is obviously unorthodox but great. And you know, like, you can kind of see how a maneuver like that can also be a little easier done, right, when the enemy's caught a little off guard.
Psychologically and tactically, Villeneuve's fleet is already on the back foot. The contrast with the British fleet could not be starker. Nelson's crews are eager for battle, and he has devised a bold plan to ensure a decisive action.
3 of your ex-boyfriends died.
Sure.
When I came to explain to them the Nelson touch, it was like an electric shock. He coined his own maneuver, the Nelson touch. Oh, that's amazing.
By 11 AM, the British fleet is formed up for battle, and closing with Villeneuve as fast as the light breeze will allow. Nelson had decided on a basic plan of attack weeks earlier. The orthodox tactic at this time would be to line up his fleet alongside the enemy and trade broadsides with them. But Nelson believes these methods too often lead to an indecisive outcome. Instead, he has decided on the bold but not unprecedented tactic of attacking in 2 columns. These will pierce the enemy line and split their fleet into sections, to be overwhelmed and defeated in close action, before the enemy's vanguard can double back to help.
Dang.
The major drawback is that during the approach, the lead British ships of each column will come under heavy fire, while being completely unable to fight back. Naturally, Nelson decides he himself will lead one column aboard HMS Victory. The other will be led by Vice Admiral Collingwood aboard HMS Royal Sovereign. As the British ships begin their approach, Nelson asks that a signal be sent to the fleet. England confide...
Again, as we went over that plan, as I've said already, Nelson didn't try to trade broad... What did he say? Broad strokes? He didn't try that, which I think, you know, is pretty the common one, right? The common way of doing battle. He instead goes straight, and with the enemy's crescent already on caught formation, makes it even easier, right? So again, like, just genius. Also goes to show you the superiority of the English naval machine, and just how everyone else was kind of far behind them. You know what I mean? So yeah, again, it's just masterfully done. I have nothing but praise for Admiral Nelson. As deserving, the man's a legend.
It's that every man will do his duty. For ease of signalling, it becomes, England expects that every man will do his duty.
Wow.
Light winds mean the 2 British columns creep forward at around 3 knots, not much more than walking speed. The lead British ships will be under fire for a tense 45 minutes before they reach the enemy line. The gunfire starts at noon, with the French 74 Fougue firing ranging shots towards Royal Sovereign. Gradually, gunfire from the combined fleet builds to a steady thunder. The French and Spanish gun crews lack practice, and their ships are side-on to the wind, increasing the roll. So most of their shots miss their mark. A new signal flies up Victory's mizzenmast. Engage the enemy more closely. It will remain there until later shot away. As the range closes, the French and Spanish gunners begin to land more and more shots on target. The sails of HMS Victory and Royal Sovereign are peppered by round shot. Spars are knocked down. Victory's ship's wheel is hit and destroyed. Casualties steadily mount.
Holy crap. But I also do like that with anything in war, there's always going to be risk. Even like with the greatest tactics of all time, risk is always going to be a part of war. You know what I mean? And again, it is beyond admirable, no pun intended, for Nelson to be leading from the front, obviously. Shows you his boldness, and everyone loves a leader who gets his hands dirty, right? Everyone loves that. And it's just like, man, land warfare already is terrifying, but there's some, like, as someone who's personally doesn't like the sea, doesn't like getting on ships, never would, you know, there's something even more terrifying, because, I don't know, I'm afraid of the ocean. What's the technical term? There's something? Phobia? I don't know, but, you know, it's something about fighting in the middle of the sea, you know, no land. And just like this, just even is like more off-putting to me, you know what I mean? And yeah, just like having to essentially just take these things. A lot of bravery is all I'm saying. There's so much courage. And I believe Nelson dies to like, what, a sniper shot? Like, well, I'm not sure sniper is the right word. Or sharpshooter? Like, I think like a French sharpshooter shoots him, right? Or something like that. I could be wrong, that's what I heard, but I don't remember. So I guess we'll find out.
Twice, British ships try to overtake Victory to protect Nelson, but he orders them back into position. Nelson intends to break the enemy line at Villeneuve's flagship, the Bucentaure. Targeting the enemy commander is part of his ruthless approach. But the enemy's ragged formation and a lack of identifying pennants means he has to guess which is Villeneuve's flagship. Fortunately, he guesses right, and around 12:30, HMS Victory is poised to break the line just astern of Bucentaure. But it's Collingwood's fast-sailing Royal Sovereign to the south that will break the line first. The British have held their fire during their long approach. They've been under attack for half an hour, with no way to fight back. That's about to change. Every British gun is double-shotted, loaded with 2 rounds. Now, as HMS Royal Sovereign passes the Spanish first-rate Santa Ana, she fires a massive, raking broadside into her stern. Several minutes later, HMS Victory passes astern of Bucentaure. She delivers a devastating broadside that cripples Villeneuve's flagship and kills or injures almost half its crew. Despite these 2 powerful blows, the lead British ships are, for the moment, hugely outnumbered and in real danger. Collingwood's Royal Sovereign is under fire from all directions. The second ship of his column, HMS Belle-Isle, has been completely demasted. HMS Mars is also taking punishing fire. HMS Victory has got tangled up with Redoutable, which has a strong complement of French Marines. In intense, close-quarters fighting, the isolated British vanguard must hang on until the rest of their ships can join the action.
Is war brewing?
No captain can do everything wrong if he places his ship alongside that of an enemy.
After 20 precarious minutes, British ships are arriving, one by one, to join the battle. They pile into the disordered enemy formation, unleashing double-shotted broadsides to devastating effect. Victory now receives much-needed support from Téméraire. As successive British ships enter the fray, a mass brawl develops. It's exactly what Nelson wants, the enemy unable to escape and pummeled at close range. Meanwhile, Admiral Dumanoir's Franco-Spanish vanguard has begun an agonizingly slow turn to try to rejoin the battle. But it will be more than an hour before they're in position.
Holy crap. Yeah, I completely got them. Again. But man, that must suck. Imagine being like, oh crap, the fighting's starting and you can't even get there on time. Like, you can see it or hear it, but... You know, that's gonna suck so bad. Man.
HMS Africa, a 64-gun third-rate, had earlier become separated from the British fleet. Her captain, Henry Digby, now deliberately misinterprets Nelson's order to withdraw to safety. Instead, he charges straight into the battle from the north. HMS Africa sails alone past the entire enemy vanguard, trading broadsides all the way. Then she joins the attack on the giant Santissima Trinidad of 136 guns. Victory and Redoutable are now locked in a brutal, close-quarters slugging match. British guns smash the French hull to splinters, while Redoutable's crew assemble on deck to board Victory. At this crucial moment, HMS Téméraire appears on Redoutable's starboard side and blasts her deck with grape shot. The French boarding party is mown down. All three ships become locked together and drift into another French ship, Fougue. Some French and Spanish ships, like Admiral Magon's Algeciras, have used their time in port to train their crews for boarding and close-quarter combat. It makes them dangerous foes in close action. But time and again, just as a French or Spanish ship forms a boarding party, a British ship emerges through the smoke to sweep their deck with grape shot. Superior British gunnery is slowly grinding down the enemy. One by one, the first French and Spanish ships haul down their colours as a sign of their surrender. At the height of the battle, a French sniper, perched high on Redoutable's mizzenmast, spots the British commander on the quarterdeck of HMS Victory. Nelson is easily distinguished by his bright decorations, which, against advice, he has refused to remove. Now, he is struck by a single musket ball, which plunges into his shoulder and down through his spine.
Oh, that's an awful way to go. Oh, that's painful. Dude, again, Nelson's got guts, huge guts. The man refusing, like, support from other ships at times, just being there at the front. Again, no one can question the bravery of Admiral Nelson. But man, still though, like, he went out at his peak though. Like, going out in this battle, which had huge long-term effects throughout the rest of the Napoleonic Wars, really kind of a glorious way to go. Like, if you had to go as like a freaking warrior or leader, like, this is pretty a great way to go. I think even Napoleon might have been envious and had wished he had gone out in such a spectacular fashion, you know? Like, he didn't waste away, he went out, you know what I mean? He went out swinging at the peak of his game. So again, Admiral Nelson, man, just really great. Definitely one of the greats in an era that's already full of great people. Like, he stands out too. So yeah.
Finally succeeded, Nelson exclaims, "I am dead." He is carried below for medical treatment, where he's brought frequent reports on the progress of the battle. It is now 3 hours since battle was joined. To the south, the French 74 Achille, under fire from multiple ships, has caught fire. While to the north, Dumanoir's vanguard is finally in position to join the battle. But only Intrépide makes a determined attack. The other ships fire a few ineffective long-range shots, then veer away, rather than engage the British in close action. One captured Spanish crew, witnessing this conduct, is so enraged that they offer to open fire on their supposed allies. But the French ships soon slip out of range. They can see that Villeneuve's fleet is beaten. More than a dozen French and Spanish ships have now surrendered. Those that can are escaping. The news reaches Nelson, who hovers between life and death on the orlop deck of HMS Victory. He knows the end is near. He whispers to his old friend and comrade, Captain Hardy, "Take care of my dear Lady Hamilton, and then kiss me, Hardy." A few moments pass. "Thank God I have done my duty," Nelson murmurs, and dies soon after.
Dude, rip Admiral Horatio Nelson, man. Like, he did his duty, and he did it flawlessly. Respect on Nelson's name. The man is a beast. Heck yeah.
Around 6 p.m, at the southern edge of the battle, the fires aboard Achille reach her grand magazine. The ship is obliterated in an enormous explosion that kills half her crew instantly. This spectacular, bloody event proves the final act of a battle that has claimed 5,000 lives. And it is now clear that it has been a total and decisive British victory. Of the 33 French and Spanish ships under Villeneuve's command, 17 have been captured and 1 destroyed. And though several British ships are badly damaged, none have been lost.
Dude, the statistics of every end of of all these Nelson battles are just so one-sided. Like, frickin' Nelson just stomped everyone, dude. Like, it's not even close. He's like just owning everyone. Holy crap.
The the casualties are similarly one-sided. Admiral Villeneuve is among several thousand prisoners taken by the British. He is allowed to return to France, but 6 months later he is dead. By suicide or murder remains unclear. The Spanish commander, Admiral Gravina, escapes the battle, but dies of his wounds 6 months later. While for the British, victory is tainted by the loss of their own brilliant talismanic commander.
What Nelson had, he did not acquire. It was a gift from nature, Napoleon.
As he lay dying, Nelson's last order to the fleet had been to drop anchor, fearing bad weather. He was not wrong. A ferocious Atlantic storm soon develops, battering the victorious fleet and its many prizes. The gales howl for days, causing chaos and scattering battle-damaged ships across miles of ocean. The French and Spanish take advantage, trying to retake some of their captured ships. French frigates recapture the Spanish first-rate Santa Ana. 4 captured crews rise up against their British captors and retake their own ships. But 3 of these are driven ashore and wrecked. Despite immense efforts, the British save only 4 of their 17 captured prizes. The rest are burned or lost to the storm, which probably claims more French and Spanish lives than the battle itself. For the French, there seems no end to the bad news. 2 weeks later, Admiral Dumanoir and his 4 French ships which had escaped the battle are intercepted by Captain Strachan's squadron off Cape Ortegal. All 4 French ships are captured. For the British, it caps a remarkable fortnight of naval triumphs.
It is oddly poetic that while Napoleon's off winning some of his greatest victories on land in the 3rd and 4th coalition, this is happening at the same time, which is probably like some of the greatest triumphs of the English, you know, in the war here at the same time on sea. It's like the perfect dichotomy, or like, you know, it's oddly poetic, right? Kind of like, because, you know, we do know on land the French are like an unstoppable beast, but on sea the English are, and they're both just having some of their most decisive, glorious, important victories like nearly the same time. I just find that oddly poetic and just, yeah, just kind of cool, you know? Like, I was just giving it thought. It's like something really nice about that. We do not know whether we should mourn or rejoice. The country has gained the most splendid and decisive victory, but it has been dearly purchased.
Admiral Nelson's body is returned to England aboard HMS Victory, preserved in a cask of brandy, lashed to the mainmast. He becomes the first non-royal to receive a state funeral in Britain since the Duke of Marlborough, 83 years earlier.
Yeah, certainly well-deserved, right? Like, if anyone can have something like that, definitely this guy.
3 days, his body lies in state in the painted hall of Greenwich Hospital, where it is visited by thousands. Then he is moved by river to St. Paul's Cathedral. where the funeral procession includes 32 admirals, 189 carriages, and thousands of troops. Nelson's coffin, made of timbers from the French warship L'Orient, is placed in a sarcophagus in the cathedral crypt. News of Trafalgar takes 4 weeks to reach Napoleon near Vienna. He is en route to his own great victory over the Russians and Austrians at Austerlitz. But of the 2 famous battles of 1805, Trafalgar will have far greater consequences. The Battle of Trafalgar is one of the most crushing victories in naval history. It did not save Britain from invasion. That danger had already passed. But the sheer scale of victory ensured British supremacy at sea was unchallenged for the remaining 10 years of the Napoleonic Wars. Napoleon had to look for other means to defeat the British, a path that would lead him into grave errors, and pave the way for his own eventual defeat.
This is exactly what I said at the beginning, like, the consequences of losing the chance of invading Britain forced Napoleon to make what I consider the biggest error, the frickin' continental system, which led to a lot of more errors down the line. So, like I said, the consequences of this whole affair was just, like, it's amazing, right? Like, just that effect. And again, man, we owe it to, you know, definitely Nelson. You know, we owe it to that, and just the superiority of the English Navy. So, yeah.
For Britain, the naval dominance secured at Trafalgar would underpin her imperial power throughout the 19th century, an age she dominated as the world's leading global empire. The Royal Navy would not face a serious challenge at sea until the Battle of Jutland, more than a century later. Right now, do you think AI is improving the quality of videos you're seeing online, or the opposite?
Okay, so we're done there. Again, that's kind of the end of the Nelson's battles, because he's dead now. Unless there's gonna be somehow Nelson comes back from the dead. But, no, I'm joking, but again, like, it was beautifully done. I have to say, you know, Epic History is definitely top when it comes to the visual representation of history. Can never deny that his work is just 5 stars, 5 out of 5 stars, you know? And, yeah, again, like, just rip Nelson, dude. Like, again, the man was a force to be reckoned with, and definitely one of the great admirals, one of the greats of all time. And, yeah, I don't really have much else to say. Again, I did come into this familiar, knowing how this all went, but it's still cool to see all the time. And, yeah, I'm just gonna end the video here, and I'll see you guys tomorrow when we do something else. Bye, everyone.